What is race?
One time I was going to Righteous in Whitehall, and I saw, have you seen this billboard? It's like, there's only one race, the human race. Have you seen that billboard,
I have not seen that.
I think, I don't know, I mean, I might have made it up.
I don't think you made it up.
I think there was like Garth Brooks on it. I might have made that part. Well, let's talk about what people think it is,
okay.
Or what people say it is, or what even scientists have said it is. Social construct.
Yes. What does that mean? What is a social construct?
It means people made it up.
Yeah. Does that mean that it's not real? No.
No.
Right. There's lots of social constructs that are real. Money is a social construct.
Yes, it's paper.
It's paper, right? It means something because
paper.
You say it means something. But if you decide that, if you alone decide it doesn't mean something, you're going to have a bad time. You're like, money's not real.
Why do we resort to it's a social construct so much?
In its original definitions, race is incredibly brutal and ugly. And yet, it is also, in its contemporary meaning, a mode of empowerment and inclusiveness. And so we don't know how to
reckon with those two.
Reconcile those two. Yeah.
So exactly. Then we're just like, it's a social construct.
It's a social construct. It's not anything.
One time you were talking to me about like the yellow, red, brown, yellow, black and white.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Precious in his eye.
Yes, except not precious in the original. Originally, race, as we conceive it today, is built on ideologies of colonialism. As ideas of anthropology and science start examining not just the natural world, but also human beings as part of the natural world, early science starts classifying people. What happens is that these ideas of classifying people and these ideas of slavery and colonialism are happening at the exact same time.
Why do you think people started classifying people?
Because people are classifying everything.
Why?
Because the idea of science demands and requires it, right? Science is about observation, and it is about classification.
Is it like a way to be like, oh, this is a wooden thing, that is a leg, this is a tattoo, a watch, a black person?
And that starts all the way back with like Aristotle, right? And frankly earlier.
What is?
Yeah, right? And one of those things is people. And one of the modes that they're classified in is race. So how do they start classifying people? Well, this is the 1600s, right? There's no question of like genetics. Nobody knows what that is. We talk about that today when we talk about race. But originally, it comes down to, it comes down to like face shape and head shape, and that's from all sorts of ideas of phrenology. Yeah, like this is happening alongside the growth of slavery. And so one of the ways that people are classified is according to the way that they look, their color, and these classifications are also created by hierarchy, right? Because how do you justify that you can enslave someone?
A person,
well,
if their head is so much then because of the slant,
therefore they are different from you, and you can then classify. Once you classify, you can create hierarchy. You can say, not only am I different, but I'm better. We still use the same ideas and categories as that system of classification, right? When we talk about black, or we talk about or white, we talk about these using the same terminology and the same ideas and the same structures that we originally constructed, right, through those classifications of race.
I think this racial classification was like kept so that people could just like conquer and make money.
That kind of cause and effect I don't think applies. I don't think anybody sat down and they were like, let's construct a system of racial hierarchy that will justify me owning people, right? What they did was they created classifications and they owned people. And those things ended up being able to support each other. And so the ideas that supported each other were more popular. There's no supervillain creating hierarchies of race. It's that these ideas...
Are you sure?
I mean, I'm not sure. It's that these ideas are there, right? And they're useful, and they support people who are making lots of money. And that then makes those people justified in making that money in their eyes, right? Ultimately, this is good and right. and the way that the world works. My question then is, why do we still want there to be structures of race, right? We heard somebody say, it isn't a thing, but it is a thing, right? That it's a bad thing, but it's also a good thing. If race is built on these hierarchies and these structures that are built on ideas of separation that don't make any sense, actually, that were tools for colonialism, why do we still want them? And why do we care about them today? Why not just be like one of those people that's like, I don't see race?
Where does that come from?
I think it comes from a recognition that race is arbitrary, right? That race doesn't actually mean very much in terms of its actual idea.
But it means a ton to a lot of people.
Yes, it does. And that's why I think that when people say it, they're not being honest, right? And actually they're doing something really damaging. I think one way of thinking about it is, would you give up your race?
Definitely
your
not.
Racial identity?
Definitely not.
Why not?
Because race is still a perceived thing. You have experiences that have to do with being black, and you like become proud of those experiences, and you become proud of that culture that comes with it. I wouldn't trade that for a thing in the world. I don't think I want race to like disappear or anything. I want people to be okay with black.
It's partly about that shared experience, right? It's not just that you've had these experiences, but you know other people have had these experiences.
Yeah, I also just really like how dark my skin is, guys.
Then if we don't want to give it up, right, and we recognize that it's random and arbitrary in its roots, and that it's colonial in its roots, and it's about power,
can those all coexist?
That's why we suddenly have to say race is a social construct, right? Because those things don't coexist well.
Do they not coexist well, or is it just uncomfortable for white people to reckon with the fact that they coexist?
There you go. Yes. Of course they coexist well, because that is how they operate all the time, right? It's just that it's not comfortable that they coexist, right? It's not comfortable to recognize that this thing that we call race, that we all see ourselves as having, is rooted in institutions of oppression.
Okay, what have we decided so far? Race is a social construct, but we have used that construct to make all these systems. So even though it was originated as a fable, like we have like based so many things for hundreds of years on that fable, so it's now real whether or not we like it,
and it has both negative impacts and positive impacts, right? Because ultimately what that means,
Black Girl Magic.
Yes. What that means is, cut that yes out, that was terrible.
Yes.
Yikes. I don't know, I heard Black Girl Magic and that came out. That should never happen again.
Nope. I'm keeping it.
Delete me. I don't know what that was.
I'm keeping it.
That was appropriation of blackness coming out of my skinny white mouth. When we say social construct, what we're talking about is culture, right? And somebody said that. Race is culture.
It kind of is. Remember, like a few years ago when they brought out that stuff white people like list? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of stuff on that list that I liked.
Yes.
Like, I like art in my latte. I like bottled water. Well, not so much anymore because, like, you know, bad for the environment or whatever. Oh, yoga? Girl.
Well,
I mean, I also like Evanescence. Wake me up inside.
I don't like Evanescence. Culture is fluid, and we occupy many different cultures. When we talk about culture, we're talking about a whole bunch of different things, and many of them overlap, right? So we exist in American culture, we exist in Western European culture, we exist in black culture. And when I say we, like we exist in black culture. I also exist in black culture because black culture is the roots of much of American white culture. And so
whipping, nay-naying, hitting the quad.
I said yeet 5 minutes ago. Those boundaries are flexible and fluid, right? And yet race is not flexible and fluid in quite the same way. So I can participate in black culture. That does not make me black.
Okay.
Right? Because those categories of race exist outside of and beyond me.
So,
and I don't get to choose where I fit in them.
Why?
Because of that history
Correct.
and context that we've been talking about, because of the way that those ideas that are constructed early on have been used. And they have been used in very specific ways on and against black people, and for and by black people that do not include me.
Race is weird.
Race is weird.
So you're a white person.
Yes.
What's being white like?
Being white is weird. It is in our culture seen as like normative, as standard, and so it's invisible most of the time to me, to most white people. I don't have to think about being white except when someone calls it out, and that's why I'd say it's weird, right? Because the only time I ever think about being white is when someone is calling out my whiteness.
You're white.
Then I have a couple of options. I can like make a joke about it, right? Or I can feel uncomfortable and
I'm
guilty
also
about
skinny.
it. Or I can just be like,
that's what he sounds like.
yes. It's not wrong though. But that means that being white is actually sort of weirdly fraught. Not because being white is oppressed or something like that, but because the only time that I have to think about being white is when it is called into question.
Is being white uncomfortable?
Being white is uncomfortable. Being a white person is not uncomfortable.
Ooh, what's that mean?
Well, it means that I only have to think about being white. I only have to be white when it's uncomfortable. And the rest of the time, I'm just
a white person.
And I don't have to think about it. And that's great. That means I don't have to think about race, right? Like, unless I want to, right? But it also means the moment that I think about race, I'm uncomfortable and defensive. And the solution to that is maybe I have to think about race other times on purpose, not because anyone makes me, but because I choose to. And that's a different thing, and not everybody does it.
Why?
Because it's inherently uncomfortable. Because it requires recognizing historical acts of oppression, because it requires...
Pardon the interruption, but if you are part of Lori's group on Tuesdays, please report to the council.
Lordy?
I guess I would turn that around on you.
Okay.
I'm talking way too much.
I like when you talk. This is the chief complaint that we had when we did a workshop together. People are just like, you don't talk. And I'm like, cause I love when Dodge talks.
How often do you think about being black?
About 3 times a minute.
Why do you think about being black a lot?
Everything I do is weighted in that. Like, if you're too skinny, that's a thing. If you have a big booty, that's a thing. If you just looked too sassy, that makes someone uncomfortable. If you are too ratchet, that's a thing. If you're too proper, that's a thing.
What if you experience any emotions?
Oh my God, well then you're an angry black woman. Or
what if they're positive emotions?
You're too rowdy. It's just like this dial that I have to like turn, like micro turns all day.
I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Why would I want to talk about race when all of a sudden when I talk about it, I have to think about those things where normally I am excused from them?
Sorry.
I'm not sorry at all. Don't be sorry. That's part of the problem. Because I don't think about it, the moment that I do think about it, I'm already uncomfortable.
I talk like really proper. Is that off-putting to a person? Is my like mean face threatening right now?
Wait, and is that just with white people?
It's all the time. If you're in the grocery store, like make sure you don't look like you're stealing. I've been accused of stealing things many times. I've been accused of like stealing my car. I've been handcuffed and accused because my car was new and a cop didn't think I owned it. See a cop, like, okay, don't chill, like chill, Sharon, chill, like it's all the time.
So then why don't you want to give it up?
It's made me incredibly strong as a result. I think that's also just like a grown-up me talking. I think that I came to my blackness really late. Like I had a lot of white friends growing up, and so I was just like, I'm like not like one of those other like ghetto black girls, you know. Like I'm like smart, and I like ghetto. That was me. That was me.
No, that word though.
Yeah. That was me.
That bell was an alarm because the word ghetto. It was like, no.
My parents like took me to the school with all the white kids so that I wouldn't end up like ghetto. Yeah, I just like didn't come to terms with the fact that I really liked being black for a long time. And it's just like, you know, just now we're starting to figure out what to do with our hair. Like when in the 80s, like there was like one thing called Blue Magic. Does anyone out there remember Blue Magic? And you put the goop in your, it's terrifying. It's basically like grease that you put in your hair. And then like if their hands ever came close to your hair, like your body would be covered in a panic attack, because if they touched it, they would touch the grease. And then you would be the laughing stock for the rest of the day. It's just like so many little things that you have to deal with when you're black. Y'all have no idea. When you like come out and survive, you're like, yeah.
And ultimately, when we ask that question, what is race? The answer is like all of that.
Yeah.
Right? That is the answer.
And I imagine that like if you like got like Jocelyn in here, like she would have like a whole experience of her being a Latin American person, and like have stories with that. It's just like everyone, you know, and like, you know, y'all don't see, but like Lauren's over there, and like everything I've been saying, she's been like these shared experiences of like hair touching, and like the African booty scratcher, and the like you talk too proper, like don't embarrass me in this grocery store, like that, like the like, you know, right? Like the like I will whoop you if you embarrass me in this grocery store. Like the dignity of the black woman in public, and like oh my God, I wouldn't give it up for a second, like, because I like the fact that I have these experiences, you don't have them, and you have experiences that I don't have, but I want them both to be respected.
Yeah, but I also recognize how I think if you don't think about these things on a regular basis and you're white, that they can be super uncomfortable for you.
I would imagine, like, you know, if you don't live in the city, like, yo, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was in, Ashtabula County, north, okay? Like, this was like 2014, and I was driving my friend's car back to Columbus. We were on break from tour. And there's a strawberry festival, and there's just like, it was like farm town and white people everywhere. And I was driving and I stopped at a light, and I was just like, oh my God, no. I had the window down, and someone was just like, oh look, there's a no malintent. They were not being mean. Like, they were just like, oh look, a roach. Oh look, a window. Oh look, a I was so shook. I called my friend and I was just like, why do you live here? You live in Columbus. It's like the 15th largest metropolitan area in the US. There's a ton of people who like don't see black people ever.
Yeah.
So much that like they called me gleefully. They weren't like, I can tell, like, I know what racism looks like. I know what, like, a white person who's scared or is trying to threaten me looks like. But, like, this was not threatening at all. It was just like, look at that. 2014.
That person hasn't thought about race.
For a while. Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe they thought about it when they watched it on TV or something like that, right? But they have not thought about probably in their lives race in any real or meaningful way ever.
Yeah.
And your very presence in their life suddenly makes them recognize their whiteness.
Yeah.
Which they never have to do. Right?
Look, I'm not one of those.
Yeah. But then if I'm not, then I'm something else.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that becomes part of that discomfort. And when they just gleefully point and shout, they're not really thinking, right? But imagine then if they are called on that.
Yeah.
Right? What happens to them?
Hey, don't say that.
Yeah, well, whoa. All of a sudden they are aware of all of these things that they are not normally aware of. And then defensive, right? Because race is all of these ideas, but we only apply them to our identity when they matter to our everyday lives.
And because, you know, hashtag driving while black, working while black, I got all these, because they apply to me all the time.
Always navigating.
I'm always thinking about them, but because your whiteness doesn't have to apply, am I saying this right, to you, you don't have to think about it.
No, I don't have to think about it at all. it becomes invisible to me. And then the only time that I do have to think about it is when I'm having a conversation about race. What privilege is, right, is only having to think about this when I want to think about this, or I have to think about this, or I'm called out on the way that I'm thinking about this. That's what that privilege is. But that doesn't read to me as privilege in the moment because I am uncomfortable and defensive. It reads to me as oppression.
I'm oppressing you.
It reads to me as oppression. Because you are making me question my whiteness. You are attacking my whiteness. You are making me interrogate my whiteness.
Yeah, so like when you have to think about it, you feel oppressed. That's tricky.
The solution is to think about it more.
Yeah,
to not think about it.
Because then you get practice, and then you don't feel as defensive.
Yeah.
It's like a race push-up or something. Race push-ups, folks.
Or do you race? Is there race CrossFit?
Yeah.
Is that just like having like ideas thrown at you faster than you can react?
Race is tricky. Race is hard.
Race is a social construct, right? That's the easy way out.
I think the reason why I don't believe race is a social construct is because, well, then why is my life this way? So then how do I communicate that to someone who might just be like, nah, dude?
I don't know. As a skinny old white guy, I think that is real hard for me to answer. It's real hard for me to tell you what your responsibility is in terms of blackness and whiteness and education, right? Would it be useful to educate those people?
How'd you get so smart? Why are you the way you are?
I don't think I'm smart. I think that I'm practiced because
Why?
I think.
Why do you have that practice?
Because I think there were people in my life that intervened with me and that taught me things and that helped me to understand certain contexts, and those contexts helped me to learn about other things. I think it is about a process of learning, but it's also about being willing to be uncomfortable, right?
Well, why are you willing to be uncomfortable? You don't have to be uncomfortable.
No, but I also recognize that if I refuse to be uncomfortable, that these things are not ever going to change. If I refuse to see race, if I say, what is race?
I'm colorblind.
Yeah, if I say, what is race? A social construct, and therefore nothing. Race doesn't mean anything. Race isn't real. If I see that, look, no race. No race. Right? If I do
really
that
hard.
to you, then I can't change anything. And race has effects in the world.
But isn't that what a lot of people want? They just want things to stay the same.
A lot of people want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think intellectually, if you were like, would you like to erase all racism from the world? They'd say yes. They don't want things to stay the same. Mm-hmm. They just also don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
If you recognize that race is real, but also a social construct, that it has effects in people's lives, that it has had effects in many people's lives, in the structure of our society, in all sorts of things, and it has effects in the lived experience of people every single day. Mm-hmm. If you recognize that, and you see that those experiences are frequently negative, then you have to do something, or else you are actively engaged in oppression.
And I guess that's uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable. And doing something is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Doing anything's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard. It's hard.
I just want to eat a sandwich.
Yeah. It's hard to eat a sandwich. You gotta make a sandwich. Either way, you either live with the knowledge that you are actively engaged in oppression by not doing anything, and that's uncomfortable, mm-hmm. or you do something.
Or you just don't talk about it, and that's comfortable. Or you
just don't talk about it.
That's how you stay comfortable.
That's how you stay comfortable. And if you're white,
you don't have to.
You don't have to. That's what race is.
What is race?
It'd be a lot easier to give a one-sentence definition, but I don't think that works.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that we've answered nothing.
Did we fail? No!
No, it's just that it's just not easy.
What's the goal?
The goal is that, some people, I think to bring it full circle, that is why people, what was that dance?
I don't know. I thought I put something over
someone put some rapper picked that up and make that a dance. The goal is for everyone on this earth to feel comfortable as their entire self.
Then we can't provide a one-sentence definition of race. Then that would be failure. And so we have to allow the definition of race to be a conversation. And it has to be incomplete. That's success, not failure.
I see what you did there. You cute. He cute. I see what he's trying to do. Why wouldn't we want to talk about it? And I'm black, and there's so many things about race I don't know. I don't know about the Aboriginals in Australia. I don't know anything about what's the Chinese-Japanese in a relationship like? What is the black experience in Sweden? Who knows? Why wouldn't I want to learn or be around those people?
Because you are used to working.
I'm used to it. I'm practiced. I did my race push-ups.
Yeah.
From the moment I came out of my mother's womb, because I had to. Black, I'm black, I'm black, I'm black, I'm black, I'm black. I'm swole!
I'm not swole. Look at me. I'm only 40 pounds. I'm over here talking about history and kind of academic ideas, and that's because my experience of race is through those ideas, right? Because that's how I can access it. I'm not going to learn about ideas of race through my experience as a white person because race is invisible. It's not real, right?
Yeah.
I am white and I'm surrounded by white culture and I'm surrounded by whiteness, but I don't have to think about those things or talk about them. They're invisible.
It's like air, yo. It's like air.
It's all around us.
Because it's there.
I don't have to think about it.
It's there. But I don't have to think about it. Unless I need a lung transplant and I need to start thinking about breathing.
Yes. Or unless somebody toots in the elevator and it's uncomfortable for a minute.
Then I think about the air. Race is like air. Are you saying that for me, race is like an elevator of constant farts? And for you, it's just a clean elevator?
It's like a field of flowers.
It's like
life is hard for everybody sometimes. Sometimes it is an elevator, right? And sometimes it's a field of flowers.
Yeah.
I think it's sometimes a field of farts, and sometimes an elevator for
when
you.
Someone calls,
it's always there.
When someone calls you out, it's like me farting in your face.
Yes. I don't know. I think it's more like I farted in the elevator.
Yes.
And I have to smell it, and then somebody's
did someone fart?
Did someone fart?
No,
and I'm
farted.
It's me. It's the sudden visibility.
That's what it's like. You farted.
Yes.
And you try not to say nothing.
It's
and
the
someone
sudden
says you
visibility
farted.
of my whiteness.
And someone's like, I definitely did not fart. And you're like...
And so there's shame, and I'm defensive, and I'm like...
That is exactly what it is.
Race is a fart in an elevator.
She's growing.
That is simultaneously maybe the dumbest thing I've ever said, and also I think
it's so really true because we don't think about air, but if someone has bronchitis or pneumonia, they're or a panic attack. They're all of a sudden they are thinking about the air.
They're aware of the air.
Yeah.
And somebody who has those conditions chronically,
yes, thinks about it all the time. And I don't think about I haven't thought about breathing until now, and I've been breathing the whole day. I think that's it.